The pagan space is filled with woke shit. These are rage rituals.
Wanted to affirm how the drag queens had contributed to the community.
Hey guys, it's Misha and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be reading about your experiences with woke culture within religious and spiritual communities. So let's start with the first comment. I've grown up in a Christian conservative family and am a Christian myself. However, as a young teen, I met some Christians who were LGBTQ+. Some had gender issues, some were gay, thought they were animals. The whole thing, I didn't understand how they could claim to be Bible-following Christians, yet completely ignore what the Bible said about homosexuality and gender. But I loved my friends and I didn't know how to broach the topic in an inoffensive way. As time wore on, my values broke down and I was even convinced that I was bi. I wound up with a girlfriend, and despite claiming she was a Christian, she became sexually exploitive, emotionally and mentally abusive, and used mental health blackmail to get her way. Looking back, it's bizarre how easily I was convinced that what the literal Bible said about homosexuality and gender was just a mistranslation, and how I fully believed this girl was a Christian despite how clearly ungodly she was. I still have trauma from that experience. Now I limit my LGBT friends I have. Imagine you have 2 gay friends. Oh, I've reached the limit. And the ones I keep, I know respect my religion and don't feel the need for me to support their lifestyles. Okay, I think it's interesting, this kind of relationship, right? A religious person, a Christian, and then a gay person, they're close, so there should probably be some boundaries, like one shouldn't try to convince the other to leave the religion, and then the religious person probably shouldn't constantly try to convert the other person, you know. But it's good that they respect your religion, okay? We even discuss religion sometimes. Great. And I find them way more tolerant and conservative leaning than my so-called Christian queer circle I was in before. Yeah, so Christian queer circle, a lesbian Christian couple. Actually, I do remember this one video I saw of this nun, and she was talking about this guy who's gay. I'll play the clip if I find it, but she explains it well.
I'm gay and find it difficult to be gay and Catholic.
Does you mean you have the inclination? Well, you can certainly be a very wonderful Catholic and have the inclination. Now, if you say you're actively gay, it's impossible. Why? Because to be actively gay is to commit grave sin. See? It is to go against the law of God. And sexuality is only one part of it. And there's so much, I'll bet, there's so much you can give to God.
So that's another thing, like people who go to religious individuals and they say, well, how can you think that being gay is a choice? I don't think that's the argument coming from the Christians. I think they understand that you don't really choose who you're attracted to. I don't think the argument is that they choose to be gay. Right? Like, people don't choose to be straight either. And now, after the whole Palestine thing, a lot of people on the left are thinking about converting, which is fine. You can convert to whatever religion you want. That's great. But they're saying they're now Muslim. Actually, Birdie, who we reacted to a while ago, is a Muslim, right?
Kicking me out of my hotel room because I asked them to wear an N95 mask. I trust Allah.
Not God complex here. I am in full surrender to Allah. Actually, when I did this tattoo, I've been really connecting with these 3 tattoos that I've done on myself, that of 10. And guess what house Leo is in? 10. And that's where my power is, in my birth chart.
Quite clearly condemns homosexuality. Same with Christianity, right? That homosexual behavior is sinful and that marriage should be between a man and a woman, for example. My mom and I used to attend a women's gathering in the wilderness where they offered various classes on primitive skills and new age spiritual practices, etc. There was a program for girls my age at the time, 10 to 15 or so, that provided a space for young women in between the stages of childhood and adulthood. One of the key parts of this was having a class with a midwife and learning about menstruation, sex, pregnancy, and how to take care of yourself as a woman. It was a beautiful and safe space, at least it was supposed to be. The 2 reasons we stopped going were that the last time we went, they had a non-binary woman introduce her views on gender during the class we were supposed to have with the midwife. I was about 12 at the time and hadn't really encountered anything of the sort before then, and returned to my mom after the class rather confused. I was telling her what I just learned about how pronouns can represent people's gender regardless of their their biological sex, and that somehow there were a lot more genders than I was aware of. The dangerous part is that I almost believed it, seeing as the midwife there had taught me about menstruation for the first time, and that turned out to be a true and natural thing, so initially I assumed that this woke nonsense was the same. The second reason we left was because the gathering released a statement shortly afterwards that it was open to anyone who identified as a woman. What was previously a safe space in the wilderness designed to females is now also a safe space for anyone who is not a female but enjoys being around unsuspecting women and children swimming naked in the river or frolicking around the forest. So now it's not a safe space for women. It's just a safe space for those who identify as women, men. Okay. I'd like to note that we have since become Christians. Oh, plot twist. But even when we were lost in New Age ideologies, my mom had the discernment to recognize the dangers of woke culture. So this reminded me of that clip I saw of those women screaming in the forest. Here, these are rage rituals. Author Intuition. Rage rituals have garnered attention on TikTok, where they've resonated particularly with women. In comments, women describe how moving it is to see other women embody their anger, an emotion experts say society often discourages women from expressing. Well, I mean, I think it's a good thing that we're discouraged from beating sticks out in public and screaming and having a temper tantrum, right? I'm not sure why you would post that or, film and post that. I think that's a bit strange. But if you want to go in the forest and scream and, smash some sticks, I guess there are worse things you can do with that rage, right? Like you could be an alcoholic.
Какая ваша религия?
Исповедую алкоголизм.
Your choice of drugs. There are worse things you can do than a rage ritual. I get that. But again, is the argument that we should normalize this kind of behavior in public? Because I disagree with that. And by the way, the commenter, I'm not saying that this is what I think you were doing in the forest. I'm assuming you just went there to learn about the female body, but this did remind me of this sort of ritual, because I do think there's some spiritual aspect to this. Before I continue reading about your experiences, I wanted to tell you about our sponsor for today's video, Private Internet Access VPN. When you're online using an unprotected device like your computer or phone, a lot of your personal information can be exposed before you even reach the intended website. And that's why having a virtual private network or VPN is essential so that you can hide your IP address and protect your data. T-Mobile, for example, had another recent data breach which exposed the personal information of hundreds of customers. PIA VPN encrypts your internet traffic, which safeguards your data from potential interception by hackers. It creates a secure tunnel between your device and the internet, which reduces the risk of your data being compromised, especially when you're on a public Wi-Fi. And PIA is also great because they never store user data, and their no logs policy has been proven multiple times in court and by a third-party audit. Plus, one subscription will cover an unlimited amount of devices simultaneously. To take advantage of this offer, make sure to go to piavpn.com/Misha. By using my link, you will get an 83% discount on PIA, which will just mean $2.03 a month, and you'll get 4 extra months for free. Now back to the video. Here, there's no place where you can see women be able to be angry like that and it not be condemned. I mean, you could attend a feminist rally. You could see the same thing. Helma says, she's just hormonal. She's just unhinged. She's just crazy. She's just on her period. She's just whatever. This was a place where you were probably for the first time in a really, really long time, if ever, able to scream out loud things about how you felt. Here's the thing. I think it would be better if you were just hormonal or just on your period. At least then you could have, some sort of excuse for that. Because I don't really think that's normal. How often do you guys feel the need to scream at trees and smash sticks? Range in price from around $2,000 to $4,000. Her one-day version, she says, costs $222 per ticket. Okay. But why would you even pay $1? Just find a park nearby and scream. I mean, you might get the cops called on you, but maybe then you'll feel better. Who knows? For some, rage is better handled with activating strategies like hitting a punching bag or doing an intense workout. For others, soothing strategies like deep breaths, slow walks, or calm music work better. Yeah, that makes more sense to me. I guess everyone's different. I guess some prefer to scream and smash sticks. Okay, as long as you are not hurting yourself or others. And I would add also, probably not the best idea to post it. I think it's a bit weird. Keep your rage ritual to yourself. It's like, don't be a bitch. Don't be angry. Don't be aggressive. Don't stand up for yourself. Who says that? Don't stand up for yourself? Don't protect your integrity? Who's saying this to you? Don't tell anyone that they don't have consent to touch your body or speak to you. Who is saying this? I actually saw a male version, something like that. Let me find it. Here it is. The powerful roar of 30 men letting go under a waterfall. I'm sorry, the comments when she didn't make the sandwiches. You know what? Actually, there should be some sort of matchmaking service and they should get the people that sign up for the male rage rituals and the women from the rage rituals and set them up together. Like, how did you meet? We were performing our rage rituals in the forest at the same time. Then maybe they won't have to scream at the trees. The poor trees. Also, back to the comment. I don't think there's anything weird with, educating girls and young women about menstruation and things like that. Personally, we had that kind of class in school, not in the forest. But the even weirder part here that's actually very problematic is that now non-binary people that identify as women, right, are free to join. It seems the goal is not to have any women-only spaces, which is a problem, right? Not just because it makes women uncomfortable, but for their own safety. Not sure if you're interested in a pagan's experience, but I go to a monthly spiritualist occult circle. It's very welcoming, non-political, and focused on growing as a person, spiritually, and providing support. The pagan space is filled with woke shit, which is why I tend to practice on my own. There's also huge hate towards Christianity, which never sat right with me as an ex-Orthodox Christian. I have no issues with the church, it just wasn't my spiritual home. There's abusive people who use Christianity as a beating stick, but in my opinion, that's not indicative of the actual faith. 100% agree. Anyway, one time a woman came and joined the meeting. We have regulars like me, people who come and go due to busy lives, and one-off people. Luckily, this woman ended up being a one-off. As we went around the circle to discuss the tarot cards we pulled from the month and what we felt the message might be for us, if we were comfortable to share, this woman used it as an excuse to rant and rave about how evil men were, how misogyny was everywhere, that we women need to take our sacred power back, and plugging her book. And I want to state here that 1/3 to 1/2, depending on who comes, of our group are men. I was shaking with fury at the blatant sexism. You could see the men of the group felt extremely uncomfortable and upset. Who wouldn't be? But kept silent. I'm surprised actually, 1/2 of this group are men. I feel like the tarot card things, I don't know if you guys ever got in those TikToks where it's like, oh, you got this card, and I don't think I've ever seen a man do that. Like, maybe it's just more popular with women, right? So that's a bit surprising to me. But kept silent because they knew they couldn't speak up for themselves. Several of the women of the circle tried very politely but gently to point out flaws in her rants, but she ignored them. I remained silent because I knew if I opened my mouth, hands might be thrown. I was that angry and disgusted with the things she was saying. Afterwards is socialization time. Pretty much no one talked to her, and you could tell everyone was agitated. I and several other women checked on the men of the group if they were okay. The woman didn't stay long after the socialization, and I'm glad. Yeah, she needed the rage ritual. The pagan community is rife with woke feminists. Oh, there you go. Man-hating sections. She can go there and not try and infect this one. Rare place of actual equality and spiritual support. My 5-year-old niece goes to a Catholic school, and last month they held an end-of-the-year concert and celebration. The kindergarten class sang some songs, and some of the older students put on a play. Nothing out of the ordinary. That is, until at the very end of the event, the principal announced that there was one last performance for Pride Month done by God's special children. It was literally a kiddie drag show with kids and some teachers dressed as drag queens and walking across the stage like a catwalk. They also had some kid who looked no older than 6 or 7 waving the pride flag, and they also, for whatever reason, brought up some of the special needs students on stage and told everyone to clap and cheer for them, while those poor students stood there looking super uncomfortable and frankly terrified. My niece and many other students will be going to a new school in the fall, and thankfully, many of the parents filed several complaints to the school about this. Drag queens in church is bad enough.
The anti-Catholic Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence were invited on stage during the 10 a.m. worship service to receive a blessing from the congregation. Church leaders at the Cathedral of Hope wanted to affirm how the drag queens had contributed to the community.
Drag kids in church? And I've seen people say to the Christians who oppose this, and they go, well, love thy neighbor, don't judge. Right, so you can hate the sin and not the sinner. You don't have to hate the person who's doing that, but you can still condemn that behavior. You can disagree with it and say, you know what, that does not belong in the church.
Transformed by the renewal of our minds. And that means that what I think today may have to change tomorrow if I continue to renew my mind. And it's so cool that we serve a God that calls us to continue to grow and continue to change into something new.
I'm almost 30 years old, and I used to be interested in the whole witchcraft and witch stuff. Had a whole blog on Tumblr. It was a weird time in my life. The witchcraft community had those who either were spiritual, religious, who worshiped deities, such as Greek goddesses or gods, or others who just did the craft. I was the latter. However, it was incredible seeing the religious witches trying to rewrite the history and legends of the various gods and goddesses just to fit their woke agenda. They take someone like Aphrodite, who is the Greek goddess of love, and go on about how she's really not a woman. Now, I don't worship Aphrodite, but I'm pretty sure that's a woman. But can be whatever you want. She could be a guy or both. It was cringe watching them share their interactions with her. Kind of offensive to actual religious people, saying how she or he is all for their woke idea of love and identities. Luckily, that time of my life is over and I try to forget about it. My dad has been a pastor in the same church for years now, and while we don't agree on several things politically, we have a great bond. But the church's deacon lets his left-leaning politics bleed into church so much that it's very annoying and feels out of place in church. He used to go on rants during Sunday school about how Republicans are racist, don't care about democracy or elections, and about how dangerous Donald Trump is. One time recently during a group prayer, he even asked the Lord to touch the hearts and our lawmakers to get assault weapons banned, saying that these weapons of war have no place on our streets. Needless to say, as someone that's more conservative, right-leaning, in a predominantly black church filled with older individuals, I definitely feel like a minority. You don't even have to be Christian to notice this pattern also of Hollywood, all sorts of pop stars and actors mocking Christianity specifically. It's like they have the green light only for this religion. We recently saw it at the Olympics. We see it with singers like Rihanna or Lil Nas X. Sexualizing religious figures like nuns, and then all of this satanic imagery constantly, like Sam Smith too, right? Especially when you don't believe in God or Satan, but then everything is satanic. Yeah, let's get the devil horns out and the hellfire. It's like, it's weird. Like, you start to notice these things. And these are the same people that will make fun of others for becoming religious. So you can change your gender, for example, but you can't change your mind when it comes to religion or spirituality. Right. And that's all for today's video, guys. Please comment below if you have similar experiences. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.